Despite the fact I've devoted the last decade to the work of Tim Burton, and I absolutely love the Addams Family, I have only just now got round to watching the first episode of Wednesday. And the reason for that is quite simple. It just didn't appeal. I'm not the biggest fan of TV, which is ironic. This channel started out as TV Critic Amy back in 2010, I believe. But I have a really short attention span, and I prefer films. I prefer things that are contained. You watch them, you move on from them. This didn't really feel like it was going to be something that spoke to me, also because I'm not the biggest fan of fantasy. So there were a lot of things about this that kind of just made me stall. But I've got around to watching it, and honestly, it's the quality that I expected. It definitely feels like a Tim Burton show. That feels very weird. This is his first directed TV series or Netflix series. So if I do say Tim Burton film at any point, I apologise. It's taking a bit of getting used to. But I will say it's off to a pretty good start. The first episode is Wednesday's Child is Full of Woe, and it really sets the scene fantastically. We learn very quickly that Wednesday has been expelled for something rather amusing. And she's going to Nevermore Academy, which is a boarding school for outcasts, misfits, the exact kind of characters that Tim Burton does fantastically. And I knew he'd do a fantastic job with Wednesday as a character, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But she goes to this school, and for the majority of this first episode, it is setting the scene, getting us used to who Wednesday is as a character, and the kind of style of comedy and also darkness that we can expect. And towards the end of this first episode, we find out what the rest of the series is going to be about, or what we assume it's going to be about, and then the mystery element kind of kicks in from there. And I won't say any more about that because I don't want to spoil the narrative. What I will say is that it's exactly what I expected. Jenna Ortega is just perfect casting as Wednesday. Absolutely love her. I've read nothing but praise. I also really liked Emma Myers as Enid. And I have to say, I'm so glad Christina Ricci is in this as well. I won't say in what capacity, I don't want to ruin it too much, but I just think that was a fabulous idea to bring her into this, particularly as she is a lot of people's Wednesday, certainly for the generation, the target audience for this, because I will say that while this is suitable for any age, it does have a younger target audience feel to it, a very similar target audience to things like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was kind of hesitant to watch it, because it was marketed in a very similar way, and I had no interest in The Chilling Adventures. It seemed very teenage and very kind of, I don't want to use the word twilighty because that sounds almost like an insult, but it's that kind of target audience, and I feel like that's what we're going to get with Wednesday. But we also have very clever writing. It is brilliantly done, obviously very well directed. I never expected anything else. It's got a great mix of comedy and dark atmosphere, and it blends the two very well. I think the costumes are absolutely fantastic. Off the top of my head, I don't know who did the costumes. I have a pretty good idea, but I will check just now. Costumes are by Colleen Atwood, obviously. I had a funny feeling that that was going to be the case. The soundtrack is absolutely beautiful. Music is obviously by Danny Elfman, and it just feels like Tim Burton, but I'm still wishing it was a film. I wish it was contained, and I feel like a lot of the fantasy elements in this, when you bring in the werewolves and the vampires, I'm not that interested. So there will definitely be bits of this that I will not care for. But Wednesday is so brilliantly written, so brilliantly acted, that I find her so compelling that it doesn't matter. You know, there's not much of a narrative in this first episode because it is very much setting the scene. But throughout that hour, I thought it was fabulous and I couldn't take my eyes away from it. So even if the narrative doesn't appeal to me going forward, there will still be things about it that I will really thoroughly enjoy. I still stand by the fact that I wish it was a feature film. Absolutely wish it was a live action feature film. But clearly this is something that was meant to happen. It's been a long time in the making, Tim Burton doing the Addams Family, and from what I've seen so far, I think we're going to be in for a real treat with the rest of it. I'd love to know what you think of it. I doubt I will ever wish for this over a feature film, but I can completely see why this is working so far, why it's had a lot of praise. Absolutely, so far, based on the first episode, Wednesday has done everything right. Tim Burton has done yet another masterpiece, and all of the pieces of the puzzle just seem to fit together so well. Really curious to see what the rest of the episodes have in store.